A deadly sickness swept through the land, known as the Red Death. It didn't spare anyone. Before long, countless people were infected, and there was no cure, no help. The disease was relentless, wiping out half the population. Prince Prospero, the ruler of the country, wanted nothing to do with the chaos. Determined to avoid the plague, he gathered all the wealthy and influential people in his kingdom and retreated to his grand castle perched on a hill. Once everyone he cared about was inside, they locked the gates and doors tightly. No one could enter, and no one could leave. Inside the castle, they had everything they needed, plenty of food and an endless supply of wine. The prince didn't spare a thought for the suffering people outside. Instead, he told his guests to live it up. "Forget the Red Death," he announced. "It's out there, beyond these walls. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see it. We're here to enjoy ourselves." To keep everyone entertained, Prince Prospero planned a grand masquerade party. There would be music, dancing, delicious food, and fine wine. Performers, singers, and dancers were brought in to keep the mood lively. Everyone wore masks to hide their faces, adding an air of mystery to the festivities. The castle had 7 unique rooms, each decked out in a different color. These rooms were lined up in a row, and the prince and his guests moved through them as they partied. Each room had a large window with glass that matched the room's color, and at night, fires burned outside the windows. The flames lit up the rooms with vibrant, glowing colors. The first room was blue like the sky, with blue furniture, blue carpets, and blue glass in the window. The second room was purple, the rich shade of dark wine. Its couches and chairs were draped in purple fabric, and the window glass was the same color. The third room was green, like fresh leaves, with green glass in its window. The fourth room was orange, the fiery hue of a sunset. The fifth room was white as pure as snow. The sixth room was violet, the soft shade found at the edge of a rainbow. The seventh room, however, was different. It was black, pitch black. Black curtains hung on the walls, and the floor was covered with black carpets. But the window in this room was blood red. When the firelight shone through it, the room was bathed in an eerie crimson glow. In this black room, there was also a massive old clock. Its pendulum swung back and forth slowly, ticking steadily. Every hour, the clock's deep, metallic bell rang out, loud and clear. The sound was low and heavy, and whenever the bell chimed, the entire party froze. Everyone stopped what they were doing and listened, the sound echoing ominously through the castle. When the big clock chimed, everything came to a halt. The music stopped, the dancers froze, and the laughter and chatter died down. Even the people eating and drinking put their glasses and plates down. Everyone's faces turned pale, and they covered their eyes with their hands, like they were trying to block out the sound. The clock's toll sent a chill through the room, making everyone uneasy. But as soon as the bell went silent, the mood shifted. They uncovered their faces, laughed it off, and went back to partying as if nothing had happened. The music picked up again. The dancers twirled back onto the floor, and everyone resumed eating and drinking, brushing aside the eerie interruption, at least until the next hour rolled around. Prince Prospero was thrilled. This masquerade ball was his masterpiece, the grandest event he'd ever hosted. He was completely caught up in the festivities, and so were his guests. Their minds were consumed with the lavish food, flowing drinks, lively music, and endless dancing. The party had kicked off earlier in the day, and at first, no one paid much attention to the clock. When it struck 1, 2, or 3 times, they only paused for a moment before diving back into the fun. As the night went on, the guests drifted from one vividly colored room to the next, each glowing with its own strange light from the fires behind the stained glass windows. The blue, purple, green, orange, white, and violet rooms were packed with people laughing and enjoying themselves. But the 7th room? That one stayed empty. No one wanted to go into the black room. The blood-red light from its window cast an unsettling glow. And then there was the clock, the source of their unease. When the clock rang out 10 times, the party froze again, but only for a moment. The guests quickly shook off the strange tension and went back to the festivities. At 11, the pause lasted a bit longer, but soon enough they were eating, drinking, and dancing again. Then it happened. The clock struck 12. Midnight. The bell's toll echoed through the castle, slow and deliberate. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12. The room fell completely silent as the sound lingered. Out of nowhere, a stranger appeared. No one had seen this person arrive, and their mask was unlike anything anyone had worn. It wasn't just strange, it was horrifying. The figure wore a long white robe, the kind you'd picture on someone lying in a tomb. Their mask was terrifying, resembling the face of a corpse. Worse, it looked like blood was smeared across the mask and their clothes. Prince Prospero was furious. He had gone to great lengths to avoid any reminders of the Red Death. And now, here was someone mocking him and his efforts. "Who dares?" the prince shouted, his face twisting with anger. "Seize him! Take him down!" A few men stepped forward reluctantly, but something about the stranger made them stop in their tracks. Was it just a mask? Or was it something more sinister? The way the blood seemed so real, the way the figure held themselves, it was unnerving. "Take him!" the prince barked again, but the men shrank back. No one dared get close to the stranger. Instead, the crowd began to part, clearing a wide path around the figure. The prince's rage only grew as he saw his courtiers' fear. The stranger moved calmly from the blue room into the purple one, and wherever he went, people stepped back, clearing a path. No one dared get close to him. The mask, the face of death, terrified them all. But Prince Prospero wasn't about to let this go. He stormed after the figure, determined to end this insult. From the blue room, he followed into the purple, then into the green room, and from there into the orange. Through the white room and into the violet, the prince kept chasing him, ignoring the growing unease of his courtiers. Finally, the stranger entered the black room, the one no one else dared to step into. He stood there, framed by the blood-red light pouring through the window, right in front of the massive clock. The clock's hands were frozen at midnight, its chime silenced forever. The eerie red glow bathed the room, casting shadows over the stranger and the clock, making everything look drenched in blood. Prince Prospero wasn't afraid. Furious and reckless, he pulled a knife from his belt and stepped into the black room, ready to kill the stranger himself. As the prince approached, the stranger slowly turned to face him. In the red light, the terrible truth became clear. The stranger wasn't wearing a mask. The prince froze, his anger turning to horror. He let out a scream of pain, dropped the knife, and collapsed to the floor in front of the clock. He was dead. The courtiers stared in shock, but their fear quickly turned to terror as the same fate overtook them. One by one, they dropped to the ground. Their bodies convulsed, and blood poured from their eyes, ears, and noses. The floor of the castle was soon slick with red, their cries of agony echoing through the halls as they too died. When it was over, the castle fell silent. Prince Prospero no longer ruled within its walls. The courtiers were gone. The Red Death had claimed them all. Now it was the sole master of the castle.